Hello, I'm Juanita, and this is my friend Tenneson, and we are doing POL, Presentation of Learning 2014. And I've invited Tennyson to come share with us. So, Tennyson, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just kind of introduce yourself, to tell a little bit about you and how we're connected, and then share with us what you've learned this year.
Cool, great. Thanks, Juanita. I love it. Little introduction. Tenneson Woolf. I live primarily in Utah. My work and profession is all around the field of participative leadership. I think of myself as a facilitator at one level, helping with things like better meetings and strategic design and strategic visioning. And I also feel myself very focused in that work on helping to increase consciousness or increase humanity, some of the things that are more typically oriented with spiritual fields that feel utterly essential and at the heart of the work that many of us are doing in convening people together around things that they care about. So I play a significant role that way. I also write. I also get to speak every now and then and enjoy that. I'd say way of or line of work, but it's really a way of living and a way of being. My connection to you goes back to the Self as Source writing workshop that we got to take together or be a part of together on Whidbey Island about a year and a half ago. And aside from the writing part of that, which was very cool, what really opened was a stunning friendship. And I view this friendship as one of the ultimate gifts from that time. And if I were to name a quality that goes with that, it's that each time that we speak together, which we've done staying in touch with one another over the last year and a half, I feel like there's an added spirit, there's an added depth, an added vibrancy. I feel more ideas when I'm talking with you, and I make sure that I have a pen in hand so that I can scribble some of those down and maybe even do something with them. It feels very, very generative, very, very creative in a not even trying kind of way. Yeah. I value that in our friendship and love that about you. Presentation of learning, if I go into some of that.
Yes.
When we spoke about this the other day, I love the freedom that you introduced, or the freedom that I heard, which was to pull out some ideas and some learnings that have happened over the last year that have some energy. So I didn't trouble myself by making a very careful, rigorous, rank-ordered list of learnings, though that might be valuable to do. What I did was let the learnings come to me and jot them down and express them through a belief that I hold, which is that all of them are connected. At some level, each provides entry into all of the others. I love the freedom to be able to speak and think that way. So with that, there's a couple that I'll name. Find myself wanting to just settle into a deeper belly space here also. Maybe I'll start with that. This notion that people pop to a new level of energy together, a new entity that's created. So if I think of the friendship that you and I share, and I have this with some other people, there are ways in which by being together, we seem to just enmesh with one another to become a different entity in the spirit of who we are together is different and more than who we are alone. And I don't mean that as some trite reference to, oh, it's so sweet to be together. There's a physical entity that's created that feels very generative to me. And to me, this is the work of convening people together also and facilitating people together. I feel like we're trying to create conditions in which this higher, I have to start moving my hands a little bit, higher resonance can be experienced with one another. And I'm still looking for language for how to describe that. But in that resonance, in that enmeshing or entangling with one another, there is more available. Like it's a bigger buffet table, it's a bigger library, it's just a bigger resource collection to be united in such a way. So that just makes me really curious. Popping to that level of energy, I know that experience. I know it very directly with people. I've seen it in groups. And I've also seen it dissipate, meaning when the group breaks or when we're done one of our phone calls, there may have been an idea in that phone call that I thought, that was so clear and so direct, I will never forget that. And yet, when that level of relation is severed, often it's like it's unplugged for a moment. The juice is gone, and it isn't quite as clear, or it isn't quite as available. So something about how, by being in relationship, we can pop to a new kind of frequency together, and in that frequency, there really is more insight, more awareness, more simplicity, more clarity that is apparent, that's right in front of us. That's a key learning for me that I really love. And I say that because I think I'm one who always looks for and is drawn to what's the story underneath the story? What are we really up to? And the we might be a group of people coming together. The up to might be an event, a training, a learning, any of those things. There's always something underneath that feels deeply compelling to me. That's one aspect of that. I remember as we were speaking earlier in the week, we were talking a little bit about relationship to time. And this principle that I learned 10-ish years ago, or became aware of 10-ish years ago, and then have been practicing ever since, trying to practice. It was from a friend of mine whose name is Brenda Chaddock, who came to one of the early Art of Hosting events that I was a part of. And Brenda and I were talking about busyness and all the good things that are in our lives, and in some ways the good things that can cause us stress or strain. And she said something that has stuck with me. She said, as a practice, what good thing are you going to say no to today? And that's been a very useful guide for me. It takes it beyond the level of needing to say no because physically there's only 24 hours in the day, etc., living very full lives, into the more keen or sharpened awareness that you, me, us are going to say no to good things and need to say no to good things. And I'm tempted, I want to even put a tag on that to say no to good things so that I can say yes to even better things. That might be true. But even just the freedom from the obligation of saying yes to every good thing that comes my way is not actually the most healthy thing that I can do as a human being. There are other ways that I need to reground myself. I need to be quiet. I need to be still. I need to sit in the dark for a while. Some of those qualities that perhaps come with the introverted part of me. But the invitation to say no to good things feels like an important thing that I've been re-practicing in the last calendar year-ish, something like that. Also spoke this a little bit earlier. It's in relation to a story with a friend of mine, dear friend, whose name is Rock Garreau, and he and I are pals, we're colleagues, we've done some men's work together. We've also had the experience of a couple of road trips over the years, the most recent of which was in the spring of this year, of 2014. What I notice in being with Rock is that it's super easy to be together. Now, granted, we're a couple of guys, we've carved out time and space, we're not really planning too much. We're just kind of being together. Some of it's social. Some of it is very serious work stuff or serious philosophical life stuff. Some of it is just silliness. We're just being fun or silly together. There's an ease of choice making with rock that I later came to realize and name this way. It is that in the anything is the everything. In the anything is the everything. So making choices, I'll keep it in the story of rock, about are we going to go for a walk, or are we going to sit down at the counter and have another cup of tea? Are we going to watch a movie, this movie or that movie? Are we going to plan out a workshop, whether it's here or in his geographical location? There's such a freedom in all of those choices, because I think we both are oriented to saying that in the anything, the everything is available. We don't have to get nutty about the specifics of the anything, because they're so rich. They're such doorways into all, or I'd like to think most, maybe many, of the other things. In other words, the everything. So I love that. In the anything is the everything. And I'm just looking at, in reference to our time, what would be the other one that I might speak here? Okay, I'll go with two of them. One is that it's something I've learned with you, Juanita. Somewhere in our conversations, you have spoken about the depth of relationship that you have with some friends, and you've described a quality that you have insisted upon. And the way that I heard that quality is something like, I won't let you be anything less than who you really are. That's a pretty fierce stance. And I heard it also, though, as a very thoughtful stance, a very grounded kind of stance. That question of who are you really, and perhaps the role, the added role that we have as friends with one another, we, speaking more broadly now, we human beings, to actually hold each other to the depth of who we are or how we're expressing ourselves in the world right now. That's keen friendship, and that's really keen colleagueship. I don't know if I know that much about that. Just saying it out loud to test if it's true. I think I actually do know a fair amount about just being genuine and being honest. And perhaps that's one layer of I will hold you to who you really are, which implies a level of honesty and a level of integrity that goes with that. So that's one of the things that I've appreciated. It's hard not to think of more Juanita specific things when we're in this context. The last thing, the one that I'll speak is, I'm going to bring it back to my dog. My dog, Shadow, who teaches me. His name is Shadow, and he's an 11-year-old golden lab, golden retriever mix. He's a kind of companion that I just love. There's some things that Shadow, as a dog, simply cannot say no to. Little things like, if I say, hey, Shadow, want to go for a walk? He might be lying down on the ground, but his ears, in the way that dogs' ears do, he can't help but they just pop them up a little bit, like the eyes come up and the ears pop up. That'd be cool, and the tail is wagging. When I walk, we go for our walks. When I come in from being out, when he's left at the house, And I come in the door, Shadow has to retrieve something for me. He has a couple of toys on the ground. And it's like when I walk in the door, he can't not do that. He has to go get something and bring it to me. And usually I tease/reward him. Oh, Shadow, look at you. You retrieved something. I feel like I'm speaking to a kind of essence in him that is something that he can do. Now, it's fun to project onto dogs also, and I realize I'm doing that, and I'm doing so willfully. One other expression of that the other day, or within the last week, Shadow got hurt. He actually hurt his leg, his left paw. And what I realized is I believe anyway, he strained a muscle in what would be his shin. And he really couldn't walk. He was limping. And so I started a process of just resting him a little bit as much as was possible. Gave him a little bit of an anti-inflammatory medication and took it easy with him. Basically had him take it easy. On one of those times when I came back, he was here and I had gone out and I came back and he wants to come to the door and he wants to retrieve something. He limps his way to the door, first of all. He limps his way to the door for his regular scratch on the ears and he's really limping. Like, this is not a slight limp. It's a noticeable, severe limp. He still goes and finds one of the toys. And he brings that toy over limping. And it was like a super sad and pathetic and really beautiful thing to see. That even when he was hurt, because I'm watching it in slow motion now as he goes to get a toy, limp step, limp step, limp step, picks up the toy, turns around, looks back at me, limp step, limp step, limp step. And he brings this toy. It was so sweet to see. Bringing it back into this context, I think there are some things that we can't not do. Shadow can't not retrieve. He can't not come over for his scratch. We as human beings, what can't we not do? That's a good question, a good list. And I'm happy just to have the question. But I believe some of the responses that apply to me, to you, to people that we convene, we can't help but actually want to be together in meaningful, authentic ways. We can't help but want to hear and share one another's stories. We can't help but want to move our work and our lives to the most authentic places that we can. Now, those are some pretty highfalutin values, and guess what? None of us live those all of the time. But just knowing that there are some things that we can't not do, I really love as an invitation. I feel a super long list of other things that I could share, but that's probably enough for now. I'll stop.
Well, Tenneson, I'm just so grateful that I forget how many months ago I asked you if you would do this, and your response was kind of like, well, I don't know what it entails, but yes. You're asking, so yes. And I just love that we have a friendship that I can ask and you say yes.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. And I also just so appreciate our conversations and just the connection that we have. I feel so blessed by it. I feel like it makes me a better person. I feel like it's healing for me to be in relationship in the way that we are together. And so I thank you for that. So my question for you though, because he just kind of did this looking back and what you've learned. And so of course part of what I think is as we look back, we also have the opportunity to look forward. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that are some of your hopes for this coming year?
Mm. So I think there's layers to that, Juanita, off the top of my head. The layer that is the layer that feels like it's just human being is that I think in the next year, perhaps longer, in the next year, I want to really challenge myself to not only see, but speak the essence of things. What's the simplicity that I can find, and might I be able to speak it? When I see dynamics, I love doing this. I see and hear principles as I watch myself with people together, people trying to do good things, good bits of work. And I love being able to name the principle and find it in like 8 words or less. Yeah. So something about speaking the essence and owning up to the fact that I can do that sometimes in a pretty good way. I want to challenge myself to do that in the forms that I'm in. So one layer is simple as it sounds: be honest, be clear, be real. And then the layer that accompanies that is into some of the stuff that I am in. And as I think for the next year-ish, some of that for me is, I know that I'll continue my art of hosting work. That includes some trainings. That includes working with some clients in an art of hosting pattern. And as I was sharing with you earlier, that includes some writing for me. I'm really drawn to the medium of expression that is writing right now. And I want to keep trying on that hat. Like, if that hat says writer, can I wear that on my head? So I anticipate a few different forms of how that writing comes out. Yes, blog, yes, article, and yes, draft of book. I'm excited about that. That feels aligned.
I also think that it's one of the gifts, one of the genius that you bring. You know, that naming of it. So the practicing of it. When you said, be honest, be real, what I heard was be you. And I just have experienced that. Like, you know, we had a conversation and the gathering that we're having, just what you printed up in a short amount of time, really captured the essence of it, I felt. And so I just appreciate that you bring that already to the world.
Thanks, Juanita. I love the way it takes one to know one. So I love the way that you are that also, or in your own unique way. And I appreciate the mirroring back that you do that way also. I want and long for the spaces where we as human beings, whatever the arenas we find ourselves in, are able to be utterly honest, open, and free with one another. Because I think that has a whole lot to do with what kind of work we do, what kind of relationships we build, what kind of myths we break, bust. And I believe also that that's part of our job. That's in the job description. Consciousness of who we are and how we are together matters a lot. Yeah. And I'm like happy to be part of whatever that field is that gets to take those things on in a very real way. That's pretty darn cool.
Well, thank you. I just feel so incredibly grateful to have you as part of my community, and that I get to share you with other people in this way. And also, like I said, this is the first year that I've done it in this format. And so I'm just so appreciative for you being willing to take the leap with me. All right.
Thanks, Juanita. Thanks for welcoming it. Really fun to be a part of. And thanks for just stirring life in the way that you do.
And one quick question. So are you willing to commit to next year?
Thumbs up, I'm in.
All right. All right.
And if it's live and face-to-face, that's pretty cool too.
That would be pretty cool. All right. I'm going to stop the recording now.